Jose Abad-Santos. What does it stand for? The 69th session of the Senate in the first regular session of the 16th Congress is hereby called to order. Let us rise for a minute of silent prayer. Thank you. The Jose Abad-Santos Memorial School will render the instrumental version of the Philippine national anthem. The Jose Abad-Santos Memorial School, Manila, Rondalia, is a national finalist in the National Music Competition for Young Artists in 2014. This group will likewise play the medley of Philippine folk songs. Marami pong salamat sa Jose Abad Santos Memorial School for the rendition of the Philippine National Anthem and the medley of Philippine folk songs. Marami pong salamat. We suspend the session for 1 minute to allow the musicians to leave the hall. Suspended for 1 minute. Session is resumed. The Secretary will now call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero S., Cayetano Pia S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Osmeña, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Trilon.
19 senators are present. The chair declares the presence of the quorum. Majority Leader.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, our dear colleagues. Mr. President, I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the 68th session, May 7, 2014, and consider the same as approved.
Any objection? Hearing none, the reading of the journal of session number 68 is dispensed with, and the same is hereby approved.
Mr. President, before I move for the reference of business, may I just mention that today is the International Day for Nurses, which the World Health Organization has described the nurses as the backbone of any health service. So we greet the nurses, the Filipino nurses worldwide, and may I reserve the right to speak on this topic in a future session. Sir President, I now move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Before we do that, we first greet our colleague, Senator Nancy Binay. A happy birthday. It's her birthday today. Happy birthday. We want
Sir President, 1 minute suspension so that we can personally greet Senator Binay.
1 minute suspension.
Happy birthday, Nancy.
Pangatlong greeting na.
You're blaming me.
No, hindi kay Cap. Okay, dalawa lang kay Singapore, kay Laila, tsaka kay Lacson. Si Lacson.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Sir President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
The Secretary will read the reference of business.
Reference of business. Message from the House of Representatives. Letter from Secretary General of the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 5 May 2014 it passed the following House bills in which it requests the concurrence of the Senate. House Number 1979 entitled An Act to Strengthen Nation Building through the Institutionalization of a Strategic Volunteerism-Based Multi-Sectoral Public-Private Partnership Framework in all local government units and congressional districts in the country and for other purposes.
Committees on Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development, Local Government, Ways and Means, and Finance.
House Number 4032, an act institutionalizing industry cluster-based programs and projects through interlocal cooperation and people's participation.
Committees on Trade, Commerce and Entrepreneurship, Local Government, Ways and Means.
House Number 4042, an act strengthening the rules in the proper use and display of our national symbols and the rendition of the national anthem, amending for the purpose Republic Act Number 8491, otherwise known as the Flag and Heraldic Code of the Philippines, and for other purposes.
Education, Arts and Culture.
House Number 4082, an act strengthening consumer protection in the purchase of brand new motor vehicles.
Trade, Commerce and Entrepreneurship.
House Number 4085, an act establishing the open high school system in the Philippines and appropriating funds therefore.
Education, Arts and Culture and Finance.
House Number 4089, an act extending the corporate life of the Philippine National Railways for another 50 years. Further amending for the purpose Republic Act Number 4156 as amended, entitled an act creating the Philippine National Railways, prescribing its powers, functions, and duties, and providing for the necessary funds for its operation.
Government corporations, public enterprises, public services.
House Number 4098, an act recognizing the annual observance of the International Students' Day, declaring for the purpose the 17th day of November of every year as a National Students' Day in the Philippines.
Education, Arts and Culture.
House Number 4111, an act identifying other persons criminally liable for election offenses and increasing the penalties for elected-related offenses. Amending Sections 263 and 264 of Batas Pambansa Bilang 881 as amended, or the Omnibus Election Code of the Philippines, and Section 46 of Republic Act Number 8189, or the Voters Registration Act of 1996.
Electoral reforms and people's participation.
House Number 4112, an act declaring the Tuesday immediately after the second Monday of May 2016 and every 3 years thereafter a non-working holiday.
Committee on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation.
House Number 4116, an act strengthening the Balanced Housing Development Program, amending for the purpose Republic Act Number 7279, titled an act to provide for a comprehensive and continuing urban development and housing program, establish the mechanism for its implementation, and for other purposes.
Urban Planning, Housing and Resettlement.
House Number 4123, an act promoting the development of entrepreneurship skills among government employees to inspire innovativeness and to ensure their productivity even beyond government service.
Civil Service, Government Organization, Trade, Commerce and Entrepreneurship.
House Number 4128, an act declaring November 23 of every year as Philippine Press Freedom Day.
Public Information and Mass Media.
House Number 4133, an act reducing the retirement age of racehorse jockeys from 60 to 55. Amending for the purpose Article 287 of Presidential Decree Number 442 as amended, otherwise known as the Labor Code of the Philippines.
Labor, Employment, Human Resource Development, Games, Amusement and Sports.
House Number 67, an act converting the Davao Regional Hospital into Davao Regional Medical Center, increasing its bed capacity and appropriating funds, therefore amending for the purpose Republic Act Number 5702 as amended.
Committees on Health and Demography, Finance.
Bills on first reading. Senate Number 2213, entitled an act to further strengthen the anti-drug campaign of the government, amending for the purpose Section 21 of Republic Act Number 9165, otherwise known as the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002 by Senator Grace Poe.
Public Order and Dangerous Drugs.
House Number 2214, an act institutionalizing the establishment of the Philippine Big Data Center by Senator Paulo Benigno Bamakino IV.
Science, Technology, Finance.
House Number 2215, an act providing emergency warehouses in areas devastated by calamities to ensure affected consumers access to basic necessities and prime commodities at discounted and tax-free prices by Senator Paulo Benigno Bamakino IV.
Trade, Commerce, Entrepreneurship, Ways and Means, Finance.
Senate Number 2216, an act providing for the mandatory appointment of a cooperatives officer in every local government unit, amending for the purpose Republic Act Number 7160, otherwise known as the Local Government Code of 1991 by Senator Paulo Benigno Bamakino IV.
Local Government.
Senate Number 2217, an act exempting startup enterprises from taxes arising from the first 2 years of operation by Senator Paulo Benigno Bamakino IV.
Ways and Means, Trade, Commerce and Entrepreneurship.
Senate Number 2218, an act to institutionalize the Credit Surety Fund to enhance the accessibility of micro, small, and medium entrepreneurs to the credit facility of banks and for other purposes by Senator Paulo Benigno Bamakino IV.
Trade, Commerce, Entrepreneurship, Banks, Financial Institutions and Currencies, Ways and Means. Majority Leader.
I'll read this muna. Sir President, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 1831 under Committee Report number 22. This is the corporate life of the Philippine National Railways, Sir President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Consideration of the measure is in order.
Sir President, I move that we recognize the sponsor, Senator Cynthia Villar.
Senator Villar is recognized.
Mr. President, the status is that we are in the period of interpellation. I was informed that there will be no other member who will interpellate, so I move that we close the period of interpellation.
Any objection? Hearing none. Period of interpellation on Senate Bill number 1831 under Committee Report number 22 is terminated.
Sir President, I move that we open the period of committee amendments, Mr. President.
Period of committee amendments is in order. Senator Villar is recognized once more.
Mr. President, on the matter of committee amendments, while the Committee on Government Corporation and Public Enterprises initially reported its proposed amendment on SBN 1831 as reflected on the committee report number 22, we are no longer pursuing said proposed amendments and move instead for the following amendments. We would like to propose that Section 1 of Senate Bill 1831 be amended to read as follows. Section 1 of Republic Act 4156 as amended is hereby further amended to read as follows. Section 1, name, duration, and domicile. A corporation to serve as the instrumentality of the government of the Philippines in providing a nationwide railroad and transportation system is hereby created to be known as the Philippine National Railways, which shall exist for a term of 50 years from the date of approval of this act and shall be extended for another 50 years commencing on June 20, 2014. It shall have its main office in the city of Manila and shall have such branches and agencies within the Philippines as may be necessary for the proper conduct of its business. This corporation shall be under the Department of Transportation and Communication. I move for the approval of the said amendment, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, amendment is approved.
Amendment number 2, we would like to propose that Section 2 of Senate Bill 1831 be amended to read as follows. Section 2, this act shall take effect 15 days following its publication in the Official Gazette or in a newspaper of general circulation. I move for the approval of the said amendment, Mr. President.
Considering the urgency of the extension of the corporate life of PNR, would the sponsor consider that the act shall take effect immediately following its publication in the Official Gazette or a newspaper of general circulation, so that we do not have to wait for 15 days as the charter will expire on June 14. Is it on June or June 20? 2014. And in case of a delay in the signing and the publication and the effectivity of the bill will take effect still 15 days from signing, may we suggest that the sponsor consider as an amendment that the act shall take effect immediately following its publication in the Official Gazette or a newspaper of general circulation.
Mr. President,
yes, Senator.
with the permission of the sponsor, I adopt the proposed amendment mentioned by the Senate President.
The record will indicate that this is basically a SOTO amendment adopted.
Okay.
What would the sponsor say?
I accept your amendment, Mr. President.
All right. The amendment is accepted, and therefore Section 2 will now read, this act shall take effect immediately following its publication in the Official Gazette or a newspaper of general circulation. Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Amendment number 3, we would like to propose that Section 3 of the Senate Bill 1831 be deleted. I move for the approval of the said amendment, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none.
Amendment number 4, in view of the foregoing amendments, we would like to propose that the title of Senate Bill 1831 be amended to read as follows: an act extending the corporate life of the Philippine National Railway for another 50 years, further amending for the purpose Republic Act number 4156 entitled On Creating the Philippine National Railways, prescribing its power, functions, and duties, and providing for the necessary funds for its operation. I move for the approval of the said amendment, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, carried.
The committee no longer has any other proposed amendment to the bill.
Mr. President, I move that we close the period of committee amendments.
Period for committee amendments is closed.
Mr. President, I move that we open the period for individual amendments.
Period for individual amendments is in order.
May we recognize Senator
Senator Escudero.
Escudero.
Senator Escudero is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, before my proposed amendment, may I place on record that earlier I raised some concerns with respect to some of the corporate acts of PNR. And I was given a letter signed by General Manager Engineer Joseph Alan Dilay, PE, stating with respect to the Tutuban contract that they have right now, that they are adopting the joint assessment and recommendation of the OSG as well as the PNR legal team, wherein they will seek the rescission of the contract and the filing of appropriate criminal, civil, and administrative charges against those involved. More particularly, Mr. President, itong kontrata po ito ay may kinalaman sa Tutuban properties ng PNR kung saan, although maglalapse dapat yung lease ng September 2014, all of a sudden, nung 2009, in-extend for another 25 years yung kontrata beyond the corporate life of PNR itself, and in clear violation of the Corporation Code, and would constitute an ultra vires act. Not only that, Mr. President, hindi pa expired yung kontrata. Bakit bigla mong i-extend bago matapos ang termino nung nagdaang administrasyon? May I just ask, Mr. President, Your Honor, if indeed this is the position as stated in the letter received by this representation of the PNR on the matter?
That is the position of the PNR. The present management of PNR is not the same management that extended the contract in 2009. So if we so desired, now we file cases against them, then we can do so.
Actually, they should so desire, Mr. President, as they have expressed in their letter. Now, going to my proposed amendment, Mr. President, Your Honor, nung nagsimula itong PNR, nung kinreate ito, nung unang pinasa yung batas na kinikreate ito, mahigit 1,000 kilometro ang riles ng tren natin. Ngayon, after the corporate life of PNR, kulang-kulang 100 na lang yata, wala pa. According to Senator Recto, wala pang 50 kilometers ang riles ng PNR. Kung i-extend po natin muli ang corporate life ng PNR, baka mag-negative na ho yung release natin.
Hindi po. Nangako po ang PNR, Mr. Senator from Sorsogon, they will, by 2022, they will establish yung commuter railway from Malolos, Bulacan to Manila, Manila to Calamba. And by September of this year, they will resume yung kanilang operation from Manila to Bicol.
Mr. President, Your Honor, I share the view of the good sponsor that they should do that. Unang termino ko pa lang sa Kongreso, yung Bicol Express na yan, naririnig ko na mula sa PNR na pinapangako sa lahat ng kinatawan mula sa Bicol. Hindi naman nagkakatotoo, maski na 1 kilometro papunta ron. At sa totoo lang, ginawa na hong mga kutsilyo at saka balisong yung release ng tren sa parting yun papuntang Bicol. The issue I'm raising, Mr. President, is since we're extending the corporate life of PNR, para naman may pagbabago. Kasi kung wala hong magbago, edi ganun uli. They're committing to 2022, but where will they get the funds to be able to do this? Should we not include, as part of the amendment, a provision on the capitalization of PNR in order to enable them to do what they should be doing to begin with based on their charter?
Alam nyo, nakasulat na sa plano nila that they will borrow from ODA about the financing of this project, which they hope to finish in 2022, 271 billion. So, meron naman po silang pinakitang plano on how to implement this. So, hindi naman tayo mag-worry. Kaya nakikiusap na po ako sa ating good senator from Sorsogon na wag nating i-preempt na kung magkano ang authorized capital na i-raise nila kasi depende yan kung ano hihingin ng mga mag-finance nito. So, ang sinasabi po ng DOF ay bigyan sila ng time to negotiate and to determine what should they put as capital for this kasi it will all depend on the arrangement with the financier. So, anyway po, may oversight function naman tayo sa GOCC. Kung ito ang ipinangako nila, I will see to it, Mr. Senator, na I will see to it na ma-implemento at ako na po ang mag-oversight dito para to make sure na yung mga concern mo ay tuparin ng PNR at ng DOTC.
Mr. President, Your Honor, I confirm the statement of Senator Villar. I'm in receipt of a letter dated May 6, addressed to Senator Villar, signed by Undersecretary Gil Beltran, stating that they need more time in order to find out how much additional capitalization should be given to PNR, and that according to them, they should first study the absorptive capacity supposedly of PNR. My reservation, Mr. President, Your Honor, is PNR cannot borrow an amount in excess or way in excess of their authorized capital stock. So at some point in time, I will not belabor the point, Mr. President, and delay the passage of this bill. What I'm saying is, at some point in time, we have to address this issue and we have to increase the capitalization of PNR so that they can actually do and perform their mandate. If we are indeed in a rush to approve this bill because their corporate life will be expiring, I have no objection to that, Mr. President. But may I urge the good sponsor to immediately work with the DOF and for the compatible bill increasing the authorized capital stock of the PNR to be studied and filed so that it can be made as an amendment to the charter that we are extending today.
I assure you, Mr. President, that I will work on it, and it's a commitment on the part of my committee and also the PNR and the OTC that we will work on this and we will not disappoint the good senator from Sorsogon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, distinguished sponsor. Thank you, distinguished colleagues.
All right.
Sir President.
So there is no proposed amendment on the part of Senator Escudero on the period of individual amendments?
On the proposed capitalization, Mr. President, I intended to propose, since the DOF has no figure or data, I withdraw that proposed amendment and simply urged and asked the good sponsor to file the compatible and necessary bill at some future time so that indeed we can enable PNR to perform its mandate.
Thank you very much, Senator Escudero. Majority Leader.
Sir President, as agreed between the chairperson, the sponsor, and myself, I will not be making any more individual amendments, but may I make a short manifestation, Mr. President?
Before that, what is the pleasure of Senator Osmeña?
I yield to Senator Osmeña.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. With the kind sponsor yield?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. What is the current authorized capital stock of the Philippine National Railways?
Ano ba yung authorized? The paid-up capital as of the
authorized capital stock.
No authorized. The authorized capital is 1.5 billion.
And how much is paid up?
Today, the capital of PNR is around 50 billion.
50. So you
Because,
still have a lot of room.
Yes.
You have a lot of upside. You have 1,450,000,000.
Yeah. No,
What-
yeah.
What is the scope, or what will be the total amount required for the expansion
It's
and or rehabilitation of
271 billion.
So that's easily affordable within that. I doubt if it will only cost that, but
Yeah.
we don't
That's
need
the
to raise
estimate of the one making the study, the Japan JICA. JICA is making the
So with
study.
an authorized capital stock of 1.5 billion, it's easy to appropriate this. You will not need an amendment to the law if you're just going to increase the paid up to 500 or 1 billion.
But that is for the good senator from Cebu. That is for the commuter railway from Malolos to to Manila, to Calamba. But they have another plan of extending to the north. So that would require
We don't have any idea on the...
it should be a PPP. So I don't think, I think the private sector will raise the capital as an investment to PNR on a PPP.
And what about the rehabilitation all the way up to Bicol?
They promised that they will resume operation by September of this year. The only damage to the Bicol line, they said, is the bridge, which was destroyed by the typhoon in 2012, and they have repaired it. In fact, they're going to do a test run next month, and they hope to resume the operation by September of 2014.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, there are no other senators, Mr. President. May I be allowed to make this manifestation? Senator Recto and I, as we know, Senator Recto is one of the authors of this bill. He did it on his own. He was not prodded by anyone from the OTC. He was studying the law and found out that the charter was expiring. The corporate life of PNR was ending. So I'd like to say and manifest, first of all, that the DOTC did a lousy job on this bill and lousy support to the Senate in passing this bill. I do not know if trains are not their priorities. My only consolation in them doing a lousy job when it comes to PNR is that they're also doing a lousy job on the MRT and on the airports and even the X-ray machines that the Senate President tried to get them to move faster in Iloilo. No? But, Mr. President, I'd just like to manifest that it should be the departments who should be moving and really proposing a more dynamic charter and should be giving us a realistic plan all over the world, first in Europe and then in Japan and now all over Asia. Trains are being developed. If you go to Hong Kong, every single year, may bago silang line. They're building a line from Hong Kong to Shanghai. No? And after 3-4 years, magugulat ka, binubuksan na yung line at may hinuhukay na bago. And they do it so conveniently na hindi mo napapansin na the only inconvenience is you see that there are certain areas are boarded up. But even sa traffic, hindi mo man lang mararamdaman na may construction. But it's completely opposite here. We've railroaded everything in the country except our railroads. No? Secondly, Mr. President, Senator Recto wanted to propose amendments, and I wanted to join him, to put certain provisions that will articulate the mandate to revitalize, to modernize, to put provisions that will make PNR proactive. But in consultation with the sponsor, and she said she will take it upon herself as her powers as the chairman, the powers of the committee, the oversight committee, to make sure that this is done. And since we realize that even if we put these beautiful words in the law, it is actually how the law is implemented. No? So we will be satisfied right now without complicating it and without proposing new provisions, with the understanding and the manifestation today on the record that we expect a new and revitalized, modernized railway system through the PNR in the next few years. For me, Mr. President, even 22 is too far away. How come China and Japan can plan railways in a 3, 5, and 7-year period? It's only 2014. 8 years is such a long time away. Lastly, Mr. President, just to have also a parochial aside from a national point of view, the railway used to play a very big role in the city of Taguig in the FTI food terminal. Because we all know, as Senator Recto said, no, if you're going to bring goods from Bicol to Baguio, you have to pass 8 or 9 toll roads. And I was teasing Senator Recto, yun po yung official na toll roads. Kasi lumalabas po ngayon, pagka meron medyo traffic yung area, may mga industrious na traffic enforcers na meron sariling toll. Under the local government, each city can also issue a sticker and charge until 300 pesos. So the traffic, the tolls, etc., makes it much, much more expensive to, especially for agricultural goods, to travel from the south to the north and from the north to the south. Sa FTI po dati, kaya may kadiwa, kaya may food terminal, because from Bicol, mabilis at diretso ibaksak ang karne, ang gulay, manok dito. Now, the FTI, 70 hectares of the FTI was sold a year and a half ago for 36,500 pesos per square meter. Sir President, it is now being sold for 220,000 per square, 3 years to pay. The first phase was sold out at 150 or 160,000 pesos per square, 3 years to pay. They're now on their second phase, and kung hindi sold out, malapit na ma-sold out at 220,000 per square. Sa tabi po ng development nila, maglalagay ng multimodal na transportation hub, meaning ang mga bus from the southern Luzon will park there so that wala sa loob ng Metro Manila. I don't know if the PNR included in their plan na i-integrate yung kanilang stasyon sa FTI dito sa multi-modal or dito sa transport hub. Let me make that manifestation and ask the chair for assistance, because napakasayang. They're going to spend billions or hundreds of millions to connect FTI to C5 and to the Skyway, samantalang yung railways ay nandyan na. And to give credit where credit is due, no? In the past administration ng PNR, during the Arroyo administration, clear na yung mga nag-enroach sa property ng PNR, at least sa Taguig area, no? So, in the term of the PNR officials during the GMA administration, may movement to protect the rails and to reclaim their right of way. So I'm hoping na ngayon na yung tuwid na daan, hindi lang kalye yung daan na yun, kung hindi pati riles, ay gawin na rin na tuwid na daan, Mr. President. So let me stop there, Mr. President, and ask that all of this be on the record, side by side by the official side by side, no, by the what will officially be the charter of the PNR, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I want to assure the senator from Taguig and the senator from Batangas that we are one in this. In fact, I did not agree to go to plenary without the OTC submitting a long-term plan for PNR. I mean, I told them that I cannot go, in fairness to the senators, in plenary without giving this plan. So at least we gave a plan for you to see. And with regards to your observation that they did not connect yung PNR to FTI, there was a plan to do something like that. In fact, may na-advance na pera para gawin yung connection ng PNR to FTI. But somewhere along the line, during the previous administration, parang hindi na-implement yon, but it is there. In fact, yung pera parang naandun pa, naging utang tuloy nila sa other agencies because they were not able to implement the plan. So there is really a plan for PNR to interconnect with this other, what you call intermodal stations. So I will see to it that whatever we can do to make PNR more efficient, I will see to it that it will be done. So I'm glad that because of your support to immediately approve the extension of the PNR life, you are willing to give me the chance to do this as an oversight committee over PNR. Marami pong salamat sa inyo, Senador Recto and Senador Alan Peter Cayetano.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, actually, Star Point Guard L.A. Tenorio is in the gallery. Maybe we need someone like him na magaling mag-fast break para bumilis-bilis ang PNR. Sir President, having said that, no other senators. Sorry, Mr. President, can we yield again to Senator Osmeña?
Thank you, Mr. President. With the kind sponsor yield again.
Yes.
May katugtong lang po ako. I received from the senator from Bicol some facts and figures. And it seems that there is a retained earnings deficit in the amount of 15.4 billion. So that is
I think
bali capital negative capital yung
because
PNR.
since PNR is operating on a loss, just like LRT, they are all operating on a loss because they haven't increased their fare for the last 10 years. It's more of a subsidy to the commuting public, which are mostly C and D, the poor people of our country commuting through PNR.
To whom
But
do they owe this money?
from the
President?
Treasury. And beside, there is an existing loan of PNR which the Treasury is servicing.
What is the amount of the loan?
The loan is, as of today, the balance is... No. The balance yung sa outside, 2.5 lang, diba? The remaining principal is 2.7 billion, but the advances of the Treasury for the last nth year, they are paying for the loan is around 22 billion. We hope that this amount will be converted into equity.
May we have a copy of their latest balance sheet?
Yeah. We will give you.
This is getting to be worse and worse.
No. It's
No?
It's a subsidy, some sort of a subsidy, and if you compute the subsidy.
So therefore, this is a subsidy that does not appear on their books.
No, the Treasury gives money every year.
How does the Philippine National Railway Treasurer
I think that
book the subsidy?
Okay, the subsidy on operation they give every year, so they can operate.
How is it booked? Is it booked as revenues?
It's subsidy, parang subsidy from the national government.
So what's the offsetting account? You've got cash, and you're
net
saying there's
loss,
a new
net
account
loss,
called
net
subsidy.
Loss. The loss, ang offsetting is subsidy.
No, but there's a cash infusion, Your Honor.
Yeah, every year.
All right. So the cash infusion is booked
as subsidy.
As subsidy, but does it go into the capital account?
No, it's for operation.
What goes into the liability side?
The advances for the payment of the loan.
So it is an IOU?
Yes, but I don't think the Treasury... I think Treasury will convert that to capital.
All right. Then I'd like to make a request. May I have the balance sheet and income statement of the Philippine National Railways for the last 5 years?
Yeah, we will give it to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Yes.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we close the period of individual amendment.
Any objection? Hearing none. Period for individual amendments is terminated.
Sir President, I move that we approve the measure on second reading.
Any objection? Hearing none. Senate Bill number 1831 under Committee Report number 22 is hereby approved on second reading.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you very much to our colleagues here in the Senate for their support to the Philippine National Railways.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, may we acknowledge the presence and welcome to the Senate Mayor Cindy Carolino and members of the Sandiganbayan Municipality of Santa Maria, Laguna. May I ask them to rise to be acknowledged?
Mayor Cindy Carolino and the members of the Sandiganbayan of the Municipality of Santa Maria, Laguna is hereby welcome to the Senate.
Mr. President, we also have members and officers of the Aurora Integrated Multipurpose Co-op, the AIM Co-op. May we ask them to rise and also be acknowledged?
The members of the Aurora Integrated Multipurpose Cooperative is hereby recognized. Their presence is made of record and they are welcome to the Senate.
Sir President, Gilas Pilipinas head coach Chot Reyes, assistant coach Aboy Castro, and star point guard L.A. Tenorio is also here. May I ask them to rise also to be acknowledged?
The members of Gilas Pilipinas, headed by head coach Chot Reyes, assistant coach Aboy Castro, and star point guard L.A. Tenorio, welcome to the Senate.
Sir President, we also have the honorable members, the honorable justices from the Sandiganbayan, Presiding Justice Amparo Tang, Justice Alex Quiros, Justice Efren de la Cruz, Attorney Jean Valderrama, Attorney Renato Bocar, and Attorney Ruth Ferrer with us here today as we will be taking up the Sandigan Reform Bill later on. May we welcome them to the Senate, Mr. President.
The presiding justice of the Sandiganbayan, Amparo Tang, Justice Alex Quiroz, Justice Efren de la Cruz, Attorney Villarama, Attorney Bukhar, and Attorney Ferrer are welcome to the Senate, and their presence is made of record.
Mr. President, we also have, we'd like to welcome the guests from the World Association of Soil and Water Conservation, WASWAC. Mr. President, we have Professor Lee Rui, the WASWAC President, Institute of Soil and Water Conservation. We have Dr. Samram Sombat Panit, past President and Advisor and Coordinator from Bangkok, Thailand. We have Dr. Sumon Nak Chalerm. We have Mrs. Manasanan Chainurat from the Land Development Department, BKK, Thailand. We have Dr. Nong Not Sung Ayut from Mahidol University, Thailand. We have Ms. Panchiwan Ponpanga from the Natural Resources and Agro Industry, Kasetsart University from Thailand. We have Ms. Ngamnet Ektasang from Stockholm Environment Institute, SEI, Bangkok, Thailand. Dr. Chu Chard Suntasup, the Faculty of Agriculture in Chiang Mai University, Chiang Mai, Thailand. Mr. Ka Mon Kwenjin Dawong. We have Dr. Bun Song Krison Ponsan, Science and Technology Faculty, Prince of Songkla University, Patani Campus. Mr. Mongkol Tong Jib, Land Development Department, Thailand. Professor Nataliel Alibuyog, Mariano Marcos State University, Batak City, Ilocos Norte, Philippines, and Engineer Dolores Rional, Bureau of Soils and Water Management, Philippines. May we welcome them also to the Philippine Senate, Mr. President.
We welcome the members of the World Association of Soil and Water Conservation, led by Professor Lee Rui.
Sige. Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration of House Bill number 4084 under Committee Report number 27. This is the Philippine Citizenship Bill to Andray, Blatche.
Any objection? Hearing none. Consideration of House Bill number 4084 under Committee Report 27 is in order.
Mr. President, I move that we recognize the sponsor, Senator Angara.
Senator Angara is recognized.
Senator Angara is also the star point guard of the Senate team, Mr. President.
Of the what?
Of the Senate team.
Of the Senate.
He's been one of the highest scorers in the league versus the other departments of our Philippine government.
Mr. President, I'd like to thank the Majority Leader for the kind exaggeration.
Duly noted. Yes, Majority Leader, what is the status of the measure?
The status, Mr. President, is that we're in the period of interpellation. May we recognize a star volleyball player to do the interpellation, Senator Pia Cayetano.
Senator Cayetano is recognized on the period of interpellation.
With all humility, Mr. President, ako star talaga. Star player talaga.
I second the motion, the manifestation of Senator Pia. I think she's a genuine athlete at all levels, Mr. President. Some are fake athletes like myself.
I'm just kidding. But thank you, Mr. President. And with the indulgence of the sponsor, I'd like to make a few statements, maybe a few questions, but more like a few statements.
You're most welcome, Mr. President.
Mr. President, let me welcome on the onset some of our good friends, LA, Coach Chot, and Aboy. It's nice to see you here. I made a reservation on the committee report, and I just like to put on record that this is not that I will be objecting to the citizenship of Andray Blatche, but I would like to raise my concerns in general on the support that we are giving sports in general. I appreciate the fact that the sponsor and many of our colleagues here are such ardent fans of Philippine basketball. But I also would like to take the opportunity and as I acknowledge the progress that we have made in basketball, and I am a supporter myself, I would also like to draw the attention to the need to also look into other sports concerns. This is not the time and the venue for me to go into this, but I must reiterate that as we pour our passion into basketball, I hope that the good sponsor and our colleagues would also spend as much time in other important dimensions of promoting sports in the Philippines.
Yes, Mr. President, I'm in full agreement with the lady from Taguig. In fact, one of the first resolutions we heard in the committee was her resolution to investigate the preparedness of the Philippine team to the Southeast Asian Games. This was sometime late last year, I think October or November. And whenever Senator Pia mentions any concern regarding sports, we treat it with utmost importance because we know of her first-hand knowledge and because of her passion. I think she ran a triathlon just this weekend, something which the 23 other senators, Mr. President, cannot lay claim to.
Mr. President, thank you. We appreciate that, and I know that the sponsor and the chair of the committee has never been remiss and has in fact been very supportive of the initiatives I've taken, and he himself has had initiatives, although we both have met with a dead end to a large extent in our dream to resolve the problem of Philippine sports in one or two sittings. And it's a complex problem, but as I have been very candid in my assessment, it boils down to the incompetence of our Philippine Sports Commission and the inability of the Philippine Sports Commission to make its own decisions without the Philippine Olympic Commission, the Philippine Olympic Committee, which does not have an agenda aligned with what we believe should be the agenda for Philippine sports. Having said that, we are grateful to see that Philippine basketball has its share of supporters that has allowed it to progress despite the limitations in the institution. And allow me to also point out that, and I'll take advantage of the presence of LA here because his name was mentioned in one of our hearings by Father Tito. Some of you may know that I have been working on a student athletes' rights bill, which we are about to file any day now. And for your information, Mr. President, one of our resource persons, Father Tito, who was formerly, I believe, the president of the Ateneo High School and then very much involved in sports development in Ateneo, shared their experiences in recruiting and developing student athletes. And many of these student athletes, like LA, moved on to become, well, to excel in college sports and then to move on to the professional league and to represent our country. And this takes a lot of planning, Mr. President, and the problem that we have today in the field of amateur sports, particularly in college sports, is that many of the athletes are now treated as commodities, as commercial products. And instead of them being first and foremost a student, they are athletes/commercial products. And they are basically bartered or sold for a price to the school that can afford them, and basically commercializing our student athletes. And I mention this again, Mr. President, at this time because one of the issues also in college sports is the presence of foreigners in the athletic associations and per school. And I am not against it per se, but because I am also an international sports person, I also compete in foreign events, not in any professional capacity, but just out of interest and to get away from the Senate. And I know, I'm very familiar with the fact that many countries many countries invite, and many athletes that were born in other countries play in the name of another country and become citizens of other countries. And I have no problem with that per se. Let me just put that on record. But what I want to be sure is this is not done in place of a genuine program for sports development. And I know the sponsor shares my concern, but this is something I need to put on record because it is an issue that was brought to my attention in the hearings of student athletes bill. So I wanted to be sure that in my support for this measure, for this particular case, it is not misconstrued as being oblivious or insensitive to this issue on the lack of support for sports, the lack of a developmental plan, and instead a simple solution, which would be to get foreign athletes. I know that there are requirements that have been complied with, and for that reason, I am able to support this measure.
Thank you, Mr. President, Madam Senator. I do agree that commercialization sometimes ruins certain activities or human endeavors. If you talk about art, education, sports, the entry of commerce usually tends to detract from the purity of the exercise, which are the very factors which drew us to like these things in the first place. So I share the lady senator's, the good lady senator's concern for sports, and I'd like to inform her that there's a pending investigation on the state of Philippine sports, and we really very much welcome her contributions in this regard. I agree that what she said earlier about our officials perhaps putting certain interests above the interests of the athletes and the national team, and I think we should be doing something about that going forward.
And I also would like to emphasize that most of the players, and I do not know, I cannot say that I know many of them personally, but I do know a few, including LA, who is here today, have reached the point where they are icons and models for our youth. And I am very excited that our youth have different types of models to look up to. But again, I will raise my concern that if we do not fix Philippine sports at the developmental stage, many of them will not have the chance to reach these levels of success. And many of them, in fact, sadly, may have a few years in the spotlight, but without a decent education, then have nothing later on, which is, I don't even know if it was worth it to have those few decent years and then have nothing after that. And so that is really what I wanted to emphasize in this interpellation, Mr. President, is that as we take isolated steps in strengthening our Philippine team, that we do not lose sight of the need to have strong grassroots developmental and college programs in place to ensure that we are giving as many individuals, as many talented young people the opportunity to use sports as a track to further themselves, whether it's a scholarship that will end with a college career but then bring them to other opportunities, or they pursue that sports, being an athlete in college to a professional athlete. The objective is to have these options available to them. And with that, Mr. President, I will terminate my interpellation, and I'm happy to express my support, but with a plea that equal interests be given, not just by the sponsor who always has my ear when I have another sports-related problem, but the rest of the body, as we need to, if we expect Philippine sports to grow. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, the concern of Senator Cayetano for Philippine sports is very much well documented, very well known, and very well taken as far as this representation is concerned. And I think we must be more vigorous in pursuing these interests going forward. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to the lady senator from Taguig.
Thank you, Senator Cayetano. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, may I recognize another star, an action star, to also ask some questions and interpolate the sponsor, Senator Estrada.
Estrada.
Mr. President, just for the information of the body, Senator Jinggoy also played one game for the basketball team of the Senate Defenders, and he was, I would say, the most applauded player on the court that day.
What made the chair know what happened to his knee afterwards?
I have no personal knowledge, Mr. President.
For the information of the Senate President, I had a fracture after 10 years of playing basketball.
Anyway,
so I played basketball after 10
recognized.
years. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Majority Leader. May the star of the Philippine Senate basketball team yield to some questions, Mr. President.
With the very tenuous assumption that he is referring to myself, I will yield.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, may I know if Mr. How do you pronounce this? Blatche?
Mr. Andray Blatche, Mr. President.
May I know if Mr. Blatche has ever been in the Philippines before?
No, he is not.
Never?
Never.
This is his first time in going to the Philippines?
If we do decide to naturalize him, to bestow...
so he hasn't been here?
He's
not here yet?
He's not here because he's playing in the NBA playoffs, Mr. President, against the Miami Heat, the world champions.
Okay, is Mr. Blatche willing to stay here in the Philippines permanently and renounce his American citizenship and eventually to become a Filipino?
I think he's willing to reside here in the off-season.
Reside, but
yes.
not to renounce his American citizenship.
I think they're allowed dual citizenship. So with the adoption, I think he will be enjoying dual citizenship. But he's renouncing his capacity to play for the U.S. Basketball or U.S. Olympic team by agreeing to play for the Philippine basketball team, Mr. President.
What happened to our other import?
The Senate naturalized.
Douthit? How do you pronounce it?
Douthit Hoata, Mr. President. Marcus Douthit is the current center of the Gilas basketball team.
Yes, I watched him play. Yeah.
Yes, and he actually grew up with Andray Blatche in the Syracuse neighborhood of New York. So although Blatche has never been to the Philippines, he knows very much about the Philippines because of Douthit. And Douthit has been a very good player for the Philippines, to say the least, because as the Senate, as soon as the Senate naturalized him in 2010, we placed very well in 2 or 3 tournaments succeeding that, Mr. President.
Mr. President, how can we grant him a Filipino citizenship when he hasn't been here, when he hasn't stepped foot in our country? I assume he does not even know how to sing the national anthem of the Philippines. Masyado naman yata tayo yung cheap kung bibigay kaagad tayo ng citizenship kahit kanino na lang. Basta lang makapaglaro para sa ating bansa. I do not have anything against it. No? Ako, personally, I'm a basketball aficionado. I want the Philippines to become champions again. But granting citizenship, Filipino citizenship, through legislation, para naman na yata tayong napaka-mura, para tayo napaka-cheap. O sige, bigay mo na lang yung Senado, i-grant na yan para lang makapaglaro. Kahit sino na lang dyan, basta gusto makapaglaro, and after they play here in the Philippines, babalik na sila sa kanilang lupang tinubuan sa Amerika. Kakalimutan na yung Pilipinas. Pangit naman yung ganon.
Well, Mr. President, I appreciate the concern of the good senator from San Juan, and I realize that citizenship is not an ordinary privilege to be bestowed on just any ordinary individual. But I suppose the best answer, Mr. President, would be that in this case, Mr. Blatche is not an ordinary individual. I think the coach of our Gilas team, who's very kind to take time out from their schedule to be with us and assist in the interpellation, has said that Andray Blatche is probably the best NBA player or player in any league who we could get for the Philippine team. I think they spoke to DeAndre Jordan of the LA Clippers. They spoke to Roy Hibbert of the Indiana Pacers. Currently, JaVale McGee of the Washington Wizards, but he's currently injured. And Andray Blatche currently is an NBA player who plays for the Brooklyn Nets. He's 6'11". He's 28 years old. And he's averaging 12 points and 6 rebounds in the NBA. So he's a bona fide professional NBA player at the peak of his powers, Mr. President. So yun siguro ang kapalit natin nung kumbaga hindi naman lugi ata ang Pilipinas dito sapagkat nakukuha naman po natin yung talento niya. At kung sakasakali, in the same way that the Gilas basketball team has benefited enormously from the Senate and the House's grant of naturalization to Marcus Doutit, especially nung naalala natin na ang taas po ng moral ng bansa nung tayo'y nag-place second sa nakaraang FIBA Asia Championship nitong August last year. Ganun din ho siguro kung maganda ang showing natin sa FIBA Championships, World Championships po sa Espanya, Mr. President.
Thank you. Yes, I fully understand your point, Mr. President. But I think you entirely missed what I would want to point out. Since even if you get, for example, the superstars in the NBA right now, maybe LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, I will still ask the same question. Bakit tayo magbibigay kaagad ng citizenship sa isang banyaga na pagkatapos maglaro para sa ating bansa, babalik na sa kanilang bansa, kakalimutan na kaagad yung ating bansa. Once they renounce their American citizenship, then I would believe that they really would want to play for the Philippines or reside here in the Philippines permanently.
Well, di natin alam anong mangyayari ho sa darating na panahon na Mr. President. Maaring magustuhan ho ni Mr. Blatche dito at maaring di natin masabi. Baka mag-asawa ho siya rito, baka mag-take up siya ng permanent residency. But I think if you're an NBA player earning millions of dollars, medyo mahirap i-impose na dito ka tumira sa Pilipinas at i-give up mo na yung career mo. So siguro yun ang we tried to look for a reasonable compromise in this respect, Mr. President.
Kasi ako sa palagay ko, he hasn't contributed anything in our country as of today. Maraming mga nanirahan na rito, 5 taon, 10 taon, 20 taon na gusto mag-Filipino citizenship, hindi naman natin na ibibigay through legislation. Ngunit itong player na ito, sino man ito, magaling nga, makakatulong nga sa ating bansa, pero wala pang naibibigay na tulong o kontribusyon dito sa ating bansa. Bakit natin kaagad bibigyan ng passport para makapaglaro rito sa ating bansa? Bibigyan natin kaagad ng citizenship. Yun lang naman po yung punto ko. Well, as I've said, I would want to see our country become champions in the field of basketball. Kaya lang yun lang naman yung aking pinupunto, Ginoong Pangulo.
Well, Mr. President, the point of the gentleman is well taken. And in fact, he's correct. Andray Blatche has not done anything for the Philippines yet. But in the same way, si Marcus Doutit, wala rin hong ginawa sa Pilipinas nung ni-naturalize natin noong 2010. We took a leap of faith. And that leap of faith paid dividends, Mr. President. And we're hoping it will be a similar case. And the point of the gentleman is also well taken, that there are many individuals who have done a lot for our country who deserve naturalization. But in this case, I would appeal to the gentleman's sense of patriotism and hopefulness and faith in our basketball authorities na sana, sabi nga ni Coach Chot, minsan-minsan lang yung oportunidad na ito na may pumayag na maglaro na ganito kagaling. At since it's within the rules of FIBA na allows one naturalized player. At yung ibang teams nga, tayo ay, Mr. President, number 34 tayo sa mundo sa basketball. And yet, we made the FIBA World Championships, which is the top 24 teams in the world. So siguro, kung tayo, kaya pa nating higitan yung performance ho natin, sana magawa ho natin. Thank you, Mr. President.
You know, Mr. President, do you know how many players have we already naturalized through legislation, Mr. President? Aside from Mr. Douthit.
Nung 1980s, dekada 80, Mr. President,
through legislation.
Hindi ho may legislative power ho kasi ang ating Pangulo noon. So, nag-presidential decree ho siya na gawing Pilipino po sila, yung tatlong Amerikano na naglaro para sa Northern Consolidated Team, Northern Cement. That's Dennis Steele, Jeff Moore, and Chip Engeland ho.
No, when the 8th Congress resumed, how many
sa players ho?
Have
sa
we
players?
naturalized? Yes.
Well, I think Marcos is the only one, kung di ako nagkakamali, Mr. President.
So, Mr. President, okay, may I know if Mr. Blatche has ever been charged of any criminal offense in the United States?
Wala ho. Wala ho siyang kaso. He took an affidavit. He swore that he has no convictions. And he wants to play for our country, Mr. President.
Okay, given that the FIBA rules only allow one naturalized player of a certain country to play in the league, and at the moment we already have one, right, Mr. Douthit? May we know if it is still necessary to naturalize Mr. Blatche?
Tinanong ko ho rin yan kay Coach Chot nung panahon ng committee hearing, Mr. President. At sabi niya na what we want, ang goal nung Gilas Basketball is to have a pool of players, of 24 players, of the best 24 players we can get. The deadline, I think, for submission is June 30. And then by August 15 is to narrow that down to the actual team of 12 players. At doon, kailangan isa lang po yung pipiliin ho natin. So pipili ho tayo doon kung sakasakali.
So if ever we give the nod, or we naturalize Mr. Blatche, so the coaching staff of the Gilas team will choose between Mr. Blatche and Mr. Douthit. Am I correct?
Tama
Is
po.
that my understanding?
Tama po, Mr. President, Mr. Senator.
So, ibig sabihin, mas magaling si Mr. Blatche kay Mr. Douthit dahil hindi naman kayo magre-recruit pa ng iba kung hindi mas magaling si Blatche kay Douthit. Tama ba ako?
Well, pareho silang magaling. It's just that I think si Andray Blatche is a younger player. Magkakilala sila ni Marcos Douthit. Naglalaro daw sila nung araw during their days in college. Unang na-draft si Marcos Douthit ng LA Lakers, then later on si Andray Blatche ng Washington Wizards. But I would say they have similar abilities. They're both strong players. Pero mahusay ho talaga yung dalawa. I've seen both play, Mr. President.
Okay, assuming just for the sake of argument that the coaching staff of the Gilas basketball team will choose Mr. Blatche over Mr. Douthit. So, where will Mr. Douthit go after us granting Philippine citizenship to him?
Well, bahagi pa rin ho siya ng pool of Philippine players. Ibig sabihin, kahit hindi ho siya nakapasok dun sa 12 final roster, he will still be practicing with the Philippine team. And sabi nga ni Coach Chot na yung mere presence of Marcos in the practice, kitang-kita mo yung ginaling ho nung ibang players natin tulad, I'm talking about the local players, Mr. President, tulad nila Mark Pingris, Junmar Fajardo, Japet Aguilar, just by playing against Marcos and by competing with him, by getting advice from him, with his vast NBA experience. Ganun din ho siguro pagka hopefully pagdating ni Andray, hopefully mapasa ito, dumoble naman ho yung positive effects nun.
Assuming we will not grant Philippine citizenship to Mr. Blatche, so the coaching staff of the Gilas basketball team will have no choice but to use the services of Mr. Douthit, because wala namang problema si Mr. Douthit, nabigyan na natin ng citizenship. Am I correct?
Tama, the gentleman is correct, Mr. President.
At sinabi rin po kanina, pareho naman sila magagaling.
The gentleman is correct, Mr. President.
Ay, bakit pa natin bibigyan ng citizenship si Mr. Blatche kung pareho naman sila magagaling?
Well, we want that.
Sayang naman yung magbibigay tayo ng citizenship basta-basta. Now, my next question is, after this tournament, natapos na itong basketball tournament, nag-champion tayo, o nagkulela tayo, o pangalawa tayo, pangatlo tayo. What will happen to them after we granted Filipino citizenship? Saan sila pupunta? Sila ba mapapakinabangan ba ng ating bansa? Sila ba pagpapalit nila yung kinikita nila sa Amerika dito sa trabaho nila rito sa Pilipinas?
Well, I think
imposible yata 'yon. Sa akin palagay, if you will ask me, I think they will leave our country right away and seek greener pastures in their homeland.
Well, we cannot deny them the opportunity to look for the best possible professional opportunities in the same way that we cannot deny our other citizens in other professions the opportunities should they arise in other countries, be they entertainers or professionals or in other pursuits or callings, Mr. President. Pero siguro si Marcos Dautit is a good example, Mr. President, because he'll be playing with the Gilas team, I think, in the next conference of the PBA, where they will be a guest team, if I'm not mistaken. No? So he's made a choice, and Marcos Dautit has integrated very well with our countrymen. And if you talk to his teammates, sila LA, I think they're all full of praise for Marcos, especially how he has tutored and mentored many of our younger basketball players. People like Japet Aguilar who are in their early 20s at talagang sky is the limit, kumbaga. Itong mga Amerikano, hindi lang naman siguro yung actual playing skills ang pinakikinabangan natin, pati it's the experience at saka yung know-how that comes with their that they bring to the table, Mr. President.
Sa tingin niya ba, Ginong Pangulo, pagka nag-grant natin ng citizenship si Mr. Blatche together with Mr. Dautit, sa tingin niyo may pag-asa tayo mag-champion sa FIBA? Kasi kung sigurado tayo mag-champion, hindi na ako magtatanong dito.
Mr. President, parang nag-oath ho tayo na wag magsinungaling eh. Pero ang sabi ni Coach Chot, Asian Games daw ho Asian Games daw ho ang malaking chance ho natin. At saka dagdag ko na lang ho dun sa isang question nila is that si Mr. Blatche is also committed to play other tournaments aside from the FIBA World this September. Andyan din po ang Asian Games, andyan din po ang Olympics in 2016, nag-commit din ho siya.
Na yung long term ang gusto ko malaman kasi after playing for our country, after wearing uniform of the Philippines, pagkatapos noon, saan siya pupunta? Magtatrabaho ba siya rito? Maninirahan ba siya rito? Is he willing to reside here permanently in the Philippines, or is he still going back to his homeland?
It's difficult to say, Mr. President. That depends on an individual's liberty, and it's hard to predict their choices. But I think if he would enjoy himself, siguro just the way Marcos Dautit has integrated very well, baka after his NBA career, baka dito na rin siya manirahan, Mr. President.
How much is the management or the Gilas basketball team paying for the salary of Mr. Dautit?
Hindi daw pwedeng i-reveal, Mr. President. It's a trade secret daw.
How much did they promise Mr. Blatche? Same answer?
Same answer, Mr. President.
Okay. Magkano yung pinakamataas na sweldo na binibigay sa mga Pilipinong player?
Merong maximum contract, diba? According to... Well, ang tanong is, what is the maximum PBA player salary?
No, dito sa Gilas.
Sa Gilas? Walang bayad daw ho yung mga naglalaro sa Gilas.
Walang bayad?
Wala daw ho.
Walang bayad. Pero itong mga Amerikano kukunin natin, may bayad.
Siguro may konting living expenses kasi kailangan din naman nila.
Ibig sabihin, kahit allowance, wala hong binibigay ang yun ba talaga for the love of our country?
Meron daw hong mga allowances.
Magkano yung allowance? Kasi ako dati, nakapaghawak din tayo ng basketball team nung araw, kaya alam na alam ko yun kung magkano allowance binibigay.
Hindi daw gaano kalaki.
Magkano nga?
Parang 1,000 per practice, Mr. President.
1,000 per practice? Oh, come on.
May sweldo na ho kasi sila from their respective
teams. Yung gasolina
teams.
mo, papunta lang sa gym. Sa libo na eh.
May the gentleman address the chair.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. Mr. President, from your house up to the gym, your gasoline expenses, pagkain mo pa, kulang ang 1,000. I don't think that is enough. Allowance to be given to the Filipino players.
Well, this is in addition to their salaries, which are rather large, coming from their respective teams, Mr. President.
So, can you just give Mr. President, can you just give me a ballpark figure on how much Mr. Douthit is receiving from the Gilas basketball team?
Well, I repeat my earlier answer.
On a ballpark figure, around how many hundreds of thousands of pesos? Ganito lang, Mr. President. I will just change my question or rephrase my question, Mr. President. Is it higher than the salary cap of the superstar in the PBA?
If I would hazard a guess, Mr. President, sasabihin ko siguro it's at least comparable to the maximum
how
allowable
much is the
I think it's 500,000 a month, Mr. President.
500,000 a month.
Hindi
So,
ako nagkakamali.
medyo on that level.
Siguro, I'm just guessing, Mr. President, given the answer of Coach Chot Reyes.
The lowest, Mr. President.
The lowest sweldo sa PBA, ho?
Yes.
What's the lowest salary? A month? Mga 50,000 a month daw, ho?
50,000 a month.
Opo.
Pwede na tayo ron, 500,000, that is excluding allowances and bonuses. Kasi pagka meron one game, pagka medyo generous sa manager, magbibigay ka ng bonus.
Yes, Mr. President. I think it's exclusive.
Dahil ganun kami nung araw eh.
It is exclusive of performance.
Magkano yung bonus
bonuses.
kada one game, Mr. President?
I think it varies from team to team, depending on the generosity of management, Mr. President.
Well, when do you expect Mr. Blatche to arrive in the Philippines, Mr. President?
Well, I think June 15 was the latest date of his arrival. That's assuming his team in the NBA, the Brooklyn Nets, which is also the team I root for.
Is he playing currently for the Brooklyn Nets?
Yes, Your Honor. He's Mr. President. He's coming off the bench for the Brooklyn Nets. He's playing behind Kevin Garnett, who's a star NBA player, and currently they're in a series, a 7-game series with the Miami Heat, Mr. President, and unfortunately the Brooklyn Nets are down 1-2 to the Miami Heat.
Kalaban niya sila James.
Opo, Mr. President.
Because I haven't watched the NBA games because I'm not that quite interested. Anyway, when will the playoffs finish, Mr. President?
Mid-June. Mid to late June. Mga mid to late June daw ho.
So you're expecting him to arrive. Paano yung pag nag-qualify sila?
Tapos
nanalo sila.
Kahit mag-champion ho sila, hypothetically speaking, tapos na ho sila ng second to third week of June ho.
Even if they win the series over Miami.
Opo. Kahit manalo sila at mag-champion pa sila ho. Mag-finals pa ho.
Kung matalo sila, pwede siyang pumunta rito kagad sa Pilipinas.
Nang mas maaga ho. Opo.
Mas maaga.
Opo.
So, has the coach of the Gilas team watched him play already? I mean, did he go to the United States and watch him live playing basketball, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. President. Coach Chot has spoken to him and watched him play at the practice facility of the Brooklyn team.
You know, the coach of the Gilas basketball team, he was my teammate before at the Ateneo, and I believe in him. He has an eagle eye in scouting imports or players who can reinforce his basketball team. And is he here?
He's here beside me helping answer questions, Mr. President.
Anyway, can I just defer my questions, Mr. President? I will just continue tomorrow if I may, Mr. President.
We respect the pleasure of the gentleman, of course, and the leadership. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you to the good senator and
Thank you, Mr.
the
President.
body.
Mr. President, may I add that the coaching staff of Gilas Pilipinas are so good that Andray Blatche is actually playing better. He scored 15 points against the Miami team in the last game. I think he's being inspired by becoming a Filipino citizen. Mr. President, I move that we suspend the consideration of House Bill 4084 under Committee Report number 27.
Consideration of the measure is suspended.
And since we are under a deadline, Mr. President, we will take this up tomorrow.
Okay, the measure will be again on the calendar for business tomorrow.
Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 2138 under Committee Report number 15. This is the Sandiganbayan Bill, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of Senate Bill number 2138 under Committee Report number 15 is in order.
Mr. President, I move that we recognize the sponsor, Senator Pimentel.
Senator Pimentel is recognized as a sponsor of the measure.
Mr. President, the parliamentary status is where in the period of interpellation, the Deputy Minority Leader, Senator Soto, informed me that they wish to make a manifestation. May I ask for a minute suspension, Mr. President?
1 minute suspension.
Sandiganbayan.
Hanapin si Senator Soto. The
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
session is resumed.
President,
Majority
we
Leader.
recognize the Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr.
Senator
President.
Soto.
May I know the status, the parliamentary status of the Sandiganbayan amendment?
We're in the period of interpellation.
Period of interpellation, yes. If I recall it right, Mr. President, I was on the floor and I was interpellating the Senate President, if I recall it right. No? I will terminate my interpellation, and I would like to manifest that earlier Senator Enrile was supposed to interpellate, reserved to interpellate, but he has also withdrawn lest he misinterpreted. So we will terminate, as far as the minority is concerned, we will terminate our interpellations on the bill.
Thank you, Senator Soto. Yes, Senator Estrada.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do not wish to interpolate or question the bill on hand, bill on the table right now, since it is quite inevitable that the Ombudsman will file the information before the Sandiganbayan against the three senators. All I ask from the Sandiganbayan justices who are present here, especially the presiding justice who is here right now, all I ask is for fairness and justice in our case, if ever. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Estrada. The message is duly heard by our Sandiganbayan members who are present in the hall today. Thank you, Senator Estrada. Senate Majority Leader.
Mr. President, there are no other senators who wish to interpolate.
Senator Osmeña,
Senator,
just a manifestation from Senator Osmeña.
Senator Osmeña is recognized for manifestation.
Ma'am, ito makinig tayo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the kind sponsor yield?
Yes, sir. Yes, Senator and Mr. President. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. President, I have some concerns with regard to items A and B in the proposed amendment to the law, and it reads as follows. I'll read the complete proposed amendment to the law in the committee report. Provided that the regional trial court shall have exclusive jurisdiction where the information A does not allege any damage or bribe, B alleges damage or bribe that are unquantifiable, or C alleges damage or bribe arising from the same or closely related transactions or acts not exceeding 1 million pesos. Now, Mr. President, there are crimes, serious crimes, which do not have damages incurred, like malfeasance, misfeasance in office, negligence, direct bribery, indirect bribery. So I was going to ask the opinion of the sponsor if he would have any objection to my asking for the deletion of A and B, which reads as follows: does not allege any damage or bribe, and B alleges damage or bribes that are unquantifiable. So what will remain is C, alleges damage or bribe arising from the same or closely related transactions or acts not exceeding 1 million pesos.
So thank you, Mr. President, for the suggestion. It's good that you raised this proposed amendment this early so we can study it. All I can say is that I will commit to study it, but the purpose actually of the proposed amendment is to lessen the burden, caseload of the Sandiganbayan and throw all of these cases to the RTC. So if you will give us time, I will try to compute the scientific approach how many cases fall under theoretically will fall under A and B, and then if we delete A and B, do we still achieve the purpose, which is to lessen the caseload of the Sandiganbayan? But the proposal, I welcome the proposal because this is more scientific. It gives us an objective amount. If the proposed deletion of A and B will be carried, then what will be left is a very scientific test, a mathematical test that if the damage is or bribe does not exceed 1 million pesos, then it's RTC. So it's easier, and we will also further declog the court dockets from disputes on whether or not a case has been properly referred to the RTC. If the case falls under A and B, which are not as clear as the mathematical threshold of 1 million pesos.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, we would welcome that. We also have some notes which we would like to share with the good sponsor in order to further elucidate on the reasons behind the proposed amendment to the amendments that we are proposing. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. So all I'm asking for is time. We will theoretically study if the deletion of A and B will still achieve the purpose of the proposed amendment.
Anyway, that will come at the period of amendment, so there is enough time
yes, sir.
to study.
Yes, sir. So, ganun na.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, if the sponsor will give to just two quick questions. Two quick questions, Mr. President.
Yes, please, Majority Leader.
This bill is a good bill, and I think many of us support it already. But let me just take advantage that the justices are there before us, and I'll just ask one question instead of two. No? kumbaga kay Manny Pacquiao na nagte-training, ang sabi ng coach niya, kailangan bumalik yung speed, pero kailangan bumalik din yung power, no? Etong bill na to, parang yung speed, no, mapabilis yung mga hearing dahil imbis na 3 ang pwedeng kumuha ng ebidensya, pwedeng isang justice lang i-designate. Diba? Parang sa lower court, yung judge, mag-isa naman siya na tinatanggap. May I ask the justices who are here today, through of course the sponsor, is there anything else that they'd like to have on the bill or on future bills that will give them, kumbaga, kung ito yung speed, saan yung power, saan yung punch? How can the Senate help the Sandiganbayan to really be a powerhouse at least in that side of the justice system, no, the courts, no? Or maybe they can submit a paper to us later on, no?
More time comes quality.
Yes.
Or maybe,
Mr. President,
yes.
with the permission of the author, of the chairman of the committee and the author, if it would be their pleasure to submit later on a position paper to the committee on how we can further strengthen the court, may it be from the benefits of their personnel to the equipment to anything else that will make them more independent and will really make them a powerhouse of our justice system, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President. Anyway, the justice system is like a living organism. It evolves, so this will not be this is a never-ending search for formula or solutions on how to speed up the dispensation of justice and improve the quality. So, will there be a position paper from the Sandiganbayan now? Additional, Mr. President, the presiding justice of the Sandiganbayan has already submitted a position paper, but that was directed at the pending bill.
Yes.
There will be additional manifestations on how the Senate, through law, can help in this speedy and the dispensation of justice plus the quality.
I'd just like to give them that opportunity because usually, pag mabagal yung kaso o may problema, sila ang nasisisi. But when you ask, but seldom are they really asked, what do you need? And I think the Senate as an institution wants to extend that courtesy to them and try to see if kaya naman ibigay at kayang ireforma, bakit hindi. Having said,
I do not know if the Senate President will confirm this, but I think that question was asked during the committee hearing, and they asked for staff support. And the Senate President said that should not be a problem. So I don't know. Did I remember correctly the answer of the Senate President? So
that's correct.
Yes,
that's not a problem. What we need not provide that in the bill because the General Appropriations Act provide for enough leeway on the hiring of additional staff. There is the item miscellaneous personnel benefit fund, which can be the source of additional budget for positions in the Sandigan. We just have to get a plantilla approval from the DBM, but that is allowed under existing rules.
So that is now on record that together with the amendments on the procedural, on the processes of the Sandiganbayan would be the commitment to support them financially and budgetary.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we close the period of interpellation.
Any objection? The period of interpellation on Senate Bill 2138 and the committee report number 15 is hereby terminated.
Mr. President, I move that we open the period for committee amendments.
Period for committee amendments is in order. Any committee amendments?
Mr. President, during the interpellation by Senator Enrile, he introduced a new concept. So may ask for that we set the period soon, some other time.
Mr. President, may I ask for a 1-minute suspension?
Suspended for 1 minute.
Hindi, okay kay Senator Enrile kasi hindi pa tayo doon. Maganda yung kay Senator Enrile.
Pwede bukas.
Bukas, sir.
Bukas. Total ka mo, may panahon pa sa ano eh. Subay kam. May panahon.
Mas maganda lang, sir.
Can I have my schedule? Yung schedule ko. Yung schedule ko. Ano ako bukas? Sabihin mo sa private na? Tumatawag ko sa'yo?
Naka-text po.
akin na yung amendment. Yung pinakita ko sa akin.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. Chair, upon consultation with Senator Pimentel, there are no committee amendments. So
Period for committee amendments hereby terminated.
may I move that we open the period for individual amendments?
A period for individual amendments is in order.
Mr. President, I ask that we recognize Senator Osmeña to make an individual amendment.
Senator Osmeña is recognized on the period of individual amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the kind sponsor yield?
Yes, Mr. President.
Our proposed amendment will lie on page 3, lines 31 to 21 to 23. And we move to delete after the word information, the open parenthesis A, close parenthesis, all the way down to line 23 up to the letter open parenthesis C, close parenthesis. So what will be deleted will be the following: A, does not allege any damage or bribe. B, alleges damage or bribe that are unquantifiable. Or C. That is the extent of our proposed amendment. I submit, Mr. President.
Accepted, Mr. President.
The Osmeña amendment has been accepted. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The Osmeña amendment is hereby adopted.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I thank the good chairman.
Majority Leader?
Mr. President, there are no other senators who wishes to propose individual amendments. I move that we close the period of individual amendment.
Period for individual amendments is terminated.
And to show the Sandiganbayan how we have our version of speedy justice, I move to approve on second reading the Sandiganbayan bill, Mr. President, this measure.
Any objection? Hearing none. Senate Bill number 2138 under Committee Report number 15 is hereby approved on second reading.
I move for a minute suspension, Mr.
1 minute suspension.
Can I have a word with you?
Mr. President, ready to resume?
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, may I also manifest that the following senators wish to be co-authors also of the PNR bill. No? Senator Cynthia Villar, of course, is the author. Then Senator Pia Cayetano, Senator Chis Escudero, Senator Gregorio Honasan, and Senator Sani Trillanes, and this representation, Mr. President.
The co-authorship of the senators enumerated by the Majority Leader on the PNR bill is hereby made of record and approved.
Sir President, I move that we adjourn until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Tuesday, May 13, 2014.
Session adjourned until 3 p.m. of Tuesday, May 13, 2014.